How's everyone doing this morning? I just want to start out by saying thank you for having me in here to speak today in front of your class. And so I guess I'll start out and share my story, because even while people are coming up and asking me, they were starting to ask, how did I get started? So believe it or not, I got started at what I like to say preschool, being an entrepreneur, because thanks to my parents, they got me involved in print modeling and TV commercials, where I got to go try to audition and beat a part out to get a job in order to make money for the day. So I started out in preschool starting to do print modeling, and then that grew into TV commercials as well. So by the time I was in 6th grade, I was actually very fortunate enough to land a car commercial that went worldwide for about a little bit over a year, and I was able to gain residual income through that. And when I was in 7th grade, how I started to get into more business and learning how business works and how finances work, I started attending business seminars, real estate seminars, and learning how professionals who've been there and done that and been successful, and learning how they've done it and picking up tips that will help me in what I'm doing. So by the time I turned 13, in the announcement it said I started doing investing, I actually did my very first real estate deal when I was 13 years old. And that deal actually was, I approached my parents and asked if I could loan them money. And my parents didn't want me to loan them money, being their son, and they didn't want to have that complication. So they just came back with a counteroffer actually and said that you can become a partner on our property. So I decided to take that offer, and when I was in 8th grade of middle school, 13 years old, I was a 43% partner in my very first real estate deal, getting to go to school, play sports, because I'm technically in a lender side position, while my dad, being the general contractor, had to go get covered in sheetrock and do all the heavy lifting. So I really enjoyed that at the time, being my age, so I decided to continue doing private money lending in real estate, and so that way I could have my money parked and getting a higher rate of return on interest, so that way I could go to school and just be a teen as well. And actually, my very first private money loan deal I did is actually up in Aurora, Illinois. And so that is more of my real estate story and how I got started there. And I'm sure a lot of you are asking, where do you get started with writing a book? If you would have asked me during my freshman year in high school if I would have wrote a book, I would have said never in a million years. I never really enjoyed English that much. It was kind of the subject that I had to do. And I actually failed 9th grade English. But when I was still a freshman in high school, getting towards the end of the year, I had to do what was called a job shadow project, where I shadow somebody in a field of work that interests me. So I actually got a job shadow, a mentor of mine in the real estate world, and during an interview that I had to conduct, he flipped a question around and just straight up challenged me to write a book and get my book done before he gets his next book done. And I decided, why not? There's nothing I can lose. So I decided to put in the time and effort and start writing this book, and it took me about 14 months of actually writing it to get my first book done. Now, learning of how to get the book published and all into a bound print and cover form was definitely an incredible learning experience for me, because we had no clue where to start, and I'm sure that's how a lot of authors are, because there's this whole world where there's self-publishing or traditional publishing. So I eventually did self-publishing for my first book, just to start learning how it works. And it eventually developed where I got picked up by a publisher, and then now it's got to a point where some of my business partners and we are now breaking away from that publisher, and I'm now a percentage partner in a brand new publishing company called Rocket Press. So that's kind of how the rest of the book world is developed for me. And now I want to start getting into telling you things that you can start doing to get started and taking action. And I'd say the very first thing that you can ask yourself every day, whether it be on a goal, short-term or long-term, or just anything you want to achieve, is the question, why not me? Because that's how I really got started at such a young age, because I saw my family doing real estate. Now, I'm not saying you have to go out and do real estate, but just ask yourself, why not me? If somebody else can do it, why can't I? So I've been challenge you, just like I was challenged to write a book, to start asking yourself that question on whatever goals you may have. So probably one of the biggest influences and one of my mottos besides why not me that has had the biggest influence on me is always ask, because being told no is better than not knowing at all. And that's really how I got to Donald Trump, to be honest, because I'm sure there was a reason that I'm unaware of yet, but in order to get out there and been able to reach out and contact him, I just had to start asking. I had to call one person at Trump Towers, and they referred. And you never give up if you get told no. You keep going back and forth until you try to get a yes, even if it means asking multiple people. Because in my first book, Schooled for Success, I actually sent out 100 requests to all the famous entrepreneurs and athletes. And out of the 100 I sent out, Donald Trump was the first and only response granting me an interview for my book. So believe me when I say you're going to be told no more than you're going to be told yes. So it's all about just putting yourself out there and taking that risk, even if you're going to get told no, because eventually you have a chance of being told yes. Now, a couple more of the things that I share in my first book, Schooled for Success. The two main more topics that I talk about is goals and setting and dating goals, because one thing that I learned attending business and real estate seminars that has really stuck with me that I share is a goal without a date is just a dream, because you got to date your goals so you can hold yourself accountable, because if there isn't a date, you can say, well, I'll do it tomorrow, and then when tomorrow comes, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, because tomorrow never comes. So you really got to start dating your goals and even telling other people about it so they can keep you on track and they can keep you accountable for your goals. And one of the biggest things with goals also, though, is if you fail to reach your goal by that set date, you never want to give up on your goals. You want to just analyze and see what you did wrong, what you can do better, and when you can start doing it better, and reset a further date to strive to reach your goal, and keep doing that until you end up reaching your goal. And that is one thing that is very incredible about taking a potential failure and turning it into a positive instead of a negative. Because, like I said, I failed 9th grade English, but about a year later, my first book came out, and it's been a whole different, incredible experience that I've really enjoyed. So just start setting and dating and taking actions towards your goals. That's an incredible way to start getting started with whatever you want to do. And the third one that I share in Schooled for Success is just take action, because you got to get started somewhere. It ain't going to come to you on a silver platter. You got to even start small, and that actually ties in with a chapter in my second book, Shooting for Success, and it's called Bottoms Up, because you got to work from the bottom at times and start small and then eventually start expanding and growing what you like to do. And even if that means working somewhere else while doing something that you love and trying to grow it. And I'd say one of the biggest advices to start getting started is just find a mentor in a business that you enjoy, whether it be in your local community. For example, let's say you like cooking, or you're interested in owning a restaurant. Reach out to a local restaurant in the area and ask if maybe you could spend the day even doing a job shadow assignment, seeing what's it like being in their shoes, being a restaurant owner or being a cook. And you never know. You just got to take the chance and ask, because you might be told yes or you might be told no. So getting on to my second book, Shooting for Success, Your Launchpad for Skyrocketing to the Top, I'm actually going to open this up here because this book is more of just 21 very short, easy to read. So if you ever have a question, maybe this can answer, because they're very short, easy to read, just business success tips. And some of my favorite talk about, my personal favorite in this whole book talks about the internet and how it can be your friend or how it can be your foe, depending on how you use it. Because the internet, social media, websites, it can be an incredible tool and an asset for getting what you do and who you are out there in a positive light, in the light that you want to represent. And on the other hand, if you don't use it properly, or if you fail to take advantage of social media, it can be a negative, because you could be missing a whole target demographic on what you like to do. So the internet is an incredible tool that you can start learning to grow and expand and have a positive impact on what you do and what you want to do. And another one of my favorites in here, actually, I'll just actually read all the 21 chapters for you. They're How I Got Bitten by the Real Estate Bug, Ask and You May Receive, Hold the Mail, and that's actually a funny story, because I talk about how, being my age, I'm an extremely picky eater. I choose to take plain as possible, and I really started to learn attending business seminars that if somebody wants to buy you lunch, if it comes on with a sandwich with tomato, lettuce, and even mayonnaise, you really got to just kind of suck it up and hold out for that time, because it can have a negative light if you start picking all the food off the plate. So not even with food, sometimes you got to suck it up to show a positive light and a positive output. So other chapters in this book, so Hold the Mail, A Goal Without a Date is Just a Dream, bottoms up, like I mentioned earlier, about starting small and starting necessarily from the bottom to work your way up. And don't aim for a job, and that's one thing that I learned at such a young age of starting to attend these real estate seminars that really stuck with me, was the phrase job, because what I was told is that abbreviation stated for just over broke, because you don't necessarily want a job, you want to have a career. You want to find what you're passionate about, because what's the saying? If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. So you got to find a career in something that you're passionate about, because when you're passionate about it, you'll have a drive to succeed, and even if you fail, you'll still have a continued drive because it's something you're passionate about and it's something you like to wake up every day and it's something you enjoy to do. So those are just a brief couple tips that I share in my book, and there's still several more in there. And also, I also have a web series on my YouTube channel that also talks about some of these tips as well, so you can also check that out. So that is really a lot of my story, and there's a bunch of stuff that I have done so far, and I would like to open this up to any questions a lot of you may have right now.
Do you like the publishing field or real estate more?
Well, I would say at this point in time, before then I probably would say real estate, but now I'm kind of starting to lean towards the publishing side, because I actually, when I was out in LA not too long ago forming this publishing company, it was really interesting being on the phone, learning about how it all works through, even through all the main companies that do distribution, and then as well as all how the government agencies like the Copyright Office, Library of Congress. So it was really interesting learning about how all that works. So I'd say currently I'm really interested in the publishing side of things, and I'm really looking forward to see how this publishing company also takes off.